Shoreditch is one of those places that's cool, well on its way to being posh. As the city expands, the old East End is consumed, so it feels a little incongruous to see these ruins. This was once Bishopsgate goods station, and it surely has a claim to being one of the largest abandoned stations in London, if not the largest. Take a hike, Camden. The station opened on the 1st of July 1840 under the name of Shoreditch. It was the terminus of the Eastern Counties Railway, a company that was initially formed to link London and Great Yarmouth. Like most mainline railway companies, the goal was to have a station in the City of London proper, or as close as they could get. Shoreditch was a more affordable temporary compromise, although the railway also shared Fenchurch Street Station. The new station was designed by an architect with the unlikely name of William Eville, while the viaduct was designed by John Braithwaite. Braithwaite might be best known today for being the co-designer of a locomotive called Novelty, which, in 1829, was unsuccessfully trialled at Rainhill and beaten by Stephenson's rocket. He also designed an early steam fire engine which got destroyed by a mob, so a varied career. The station was built to an Italianate design with a corrugated iron roof. At the time, this was a novelty, and architects at the time seem to have viewed it as a bit of a wonder material. While the station was mostly quite fancy, it was considered rather cramped. The location of the station also wasn't ideal. Shoreditch was a poor area of London, and not really the sort of place where so-called respectable folk like to be seen. And while it's within easy walking distance of the city proper, the roads could get congested. It was hardly ideal for long-distance travellers with heavy luggage, especially businessmen in a hurry. Now, I've talked about the oddness of the Eastern Counties Railway before, and regular viewers are no doubt heartily sick of hearing about it and its successor, the Great Eastern Railway. But basically they were a company that made all their money off commuter traffic, and their real priority was to get into the city. As I say, they had access to Fenchurch Street, but that was shared with other railways, and it's a pretty small terminus even if you have it all to yourself. In 1865, Parliament authorised a new station at Liverpool Street, which was just the ticket. This was actually fairly unusual, as the powers that be in the City of London were not fans of railways, but never look a gift horse in the mouth, as they say. In order to reach Liverpool Street, the line, now owned by the Great Eastern Railway, would have to descend from its viaduct, so a new line was built, coming off the viaduct and running beneath Bishopsgate Station. The old platforms were closed in 1872, and two new ones were built on the new line. The new platforms were known as Bishopsgate Low Level, but they were only in use until 1874, when even newer platforms were built at Liverpool Street and removed the need for a passenger station at Bishopsgate. Not that this was the end of the story for Bishopsgate, far from it. While the station was poorly sited for passengers, it was a great place for goods. Close enough to the city for convenience, far enough that the carts wouldn't get in the way. The station would be rebuilt as a goods depot, opening as such in 1881 to a design by one Alfred Langley. It would continue to expand over the following decades. Bishopsgate Goods Station, or Bishopsgate Goods Yards as it was also known, would be an enormous triple-decked structure. The lower two levels had railway tracks and road access, with the third being used for storage. This ramp is a clear surviving road entrance. The site had its own hydraulic power supply, which enabled wagons to be moved around with capstans, turntables and hoists. There was space for up to 600 goods wagons, and they needed it. In the early stages of construction, the idea had been advanced to include a fruit and vegetable market, but the lads over at Spitalfields objected. This market made a certain amount of sense. The Great Eastern Railway served East Anglia, and its main traffic was agricultural. Livestock, grain and timber. It also served the fishing ports of the East Coast. This sort of traffic wasn't the most remunerative carried on the railways, but it was high priority and had to be processed quickly. London is a hungry city, and in return, London supplied manufactured goods to East Anglia. Harwich and Parkeston brought imported goods, which could be dealt with in a bonded warehouse on site. No delay at the ports for customs. Bishopsgate typically handled 30 to 40 trains a day, and goods traffic increased through the last couple of decades of the 19th century, with a particularly drastic rise in the 1890s. Hundreds of road vans used the station. Nobody seems to know exactly how many, but the railway company recorded an average of 500 of their own vans every day. The end came in a very dramatic form, namely a massive fire in 1964. 235 firefighters battled the blaze, assisted by 56 fire appliances. Despite their brave efforts, the blaze caused millions of pounds in damage and claimed the lives of 2 staff. The upper warehouse level was destroyed. British Railways, by then the owners of the goods yards, didn't consider it worth rebuilding. Goods traffic by rail had been in decline for quite some time, and BR's emphasis was moving towards fewer but larger goods handling facilities outside of the main cities. Bishopsgate would probably have wound up getting closed down anyway, like the other goods depots in London. This accident just hastened the decision. In the 1960s, interest in Britain's industrial heritage was on the rise, and following the demolition of Euston Station, people began to see architectural merit in the country's railway infrastructure. Unfortunately, goods stations aren't as glamorous as passenger termini, and few expressed concern when plans were announced to demolish and redevelop the site in the 1990s. In 2002, having originally decided that the station wasn't worth saving apart from a few already listed features, English Heritage changed their mind and called for the station to be listed. This came in the form of a report called Delivering the Goods, and I think we'll all agree it's a shame they couldn't have delivered those goods a few years earlier. Despite legal injunctions and much heated debate, the demolition crews moved in 2003. Bishopsgate once again echoes to the rumble of trains, but this time in the form of overground trains coming into Shoreditch High Street. This new station opened in 2010 in the ruins of Bishopsgate. As for what remains, it occupies prime land in London's Zone 1, a short distance from the heart of the city. In December 2020, a development named The Goods Yard was approved by Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. This is one of those mixed-use developments. Now, mixed-use developments is a technical term meaning a bunch of nondescript rectangular blocks of very expensive flats that will be bought by overseas investors. Hello all, I hope you enjoyed today's video, even if it did end on a downer. Not gonna lie, lads, it's kind of difficult to keep things upbeat when you make videos about railway history. Nevertheless, if you did enjoy it, there's a like button to click and a subscribe button for more on the history of London's railways and other similar topics. Thanks as always to my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You generous folk are the Braithwaite Viaduct to my evil station. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.